Now what? Where do you go from here now that you've learned the very basics of iPhone and iPad programming? A famous philosopher once said, "The map is not the territory." Indeed, you need more than a map to get through this territory. Lewis and Clark had some help from the natives when they explored the vast wilderness of Western America. But you too can get some help exploring the vast terrain of iOS programming. The best map of this territory is Apple's Developer Center. Of course, you have to register as an Apple developer first. Registering also gives you access to all the documentation and other resources in the Dev Center. There is a lot of information squirreled away in various corners of the iOS Dev Center, as you see here. For example, the Getting Started documents help you learn the fundamental concepts and the best practices for iOS development. It's also an essential set of documents to learn about the library and what's in it. The iOS Dev Center also includes coding how-tos, which are a lot more valuable now that you've had something of an introduction to iPhone and iPad programming. And the sample code is really valuable. Most good developers look over the sample apps before they start building their own. They take something that closely approximates what they want to do, and then modify it until it does exactly what they want it to do. But probably the most important information you can find for developers is at this URL, developer.apple.com library iOS navigation. You also find this linked into the iOS Developer Center. The iOS Developer Library includes all the documentation you could ever want for developing for the iPhone, the iPod Touch, and the iPad. One important document it includes is Learning Objective-C, a primer, which provides an overview of Objective-C, which is the programming language used to code your apps. And in the required reading section of the library, you find not only the iOS Application Programming Guide and the iOS Development Guide, but most importantly, you find the iOS Human Interface Guidelines. And that's why this section is called Required Reading. You really need to know about the Human Interface Guidelines as you design your product. And the other two, the Application Programming Guide and the Development Guide, give you all the information you need for programming iOS applications and also for using Xcode to build, run, and debug and tune your apps. Now, if you want to get a handle on Objective-C as quickly and painlessly as possible, you should consider getting a copy of Objective-C for Dummies, which is by my co-author, Neil Goldstein. Neil does a great job explaining everything you need to know to program in Objective-C, and he assumes that you have little or no knowledge of programming. Now, Neil and I also wrote the iPhone Application Development All-in-One for Dummies, which is 7 books in one, including a primer on Objective-C, and of course, building a utility app and building an industrial strength app. We also co-authored the iPad Application Development for Dummies, and these books cover areas that I didn't cover in these lessons, including setting up tables, using core data, drawing maps, printing from your application, using AirPrint, and even using geolocation information in your apps. All 3 books come with sample code you can use. So the world awaits your next iPhone or iPad app. Good luck, and thank you for letting me share my iPhone and iPad programming experience with you.